I am who I am. It's, one of those big questions you always ask yourself and you never have an answer to. I'm just a young kid, but I'm someone that's incredibly impassioned to change the world around me.
You've probably heard something like, the beginning might spark the story, but the ending is what writes the legacy. Well, Eduardo Saverin has to be the poster child for this. And he's only 42. From casually sharing a Harvard dorm room with Mark Zuckerberg to almost being wiped out from the Facebook story, this guy was on a roller coaster ride from his college days. He went through quite a lot of ups and downs, but he's doing pretty darn well nowadays. In fact, he's Brazil's richest man, silently licking his billions while sharing none of the spotlight drama. Buckle up, because we're about to dive into the life of Eduardo Saverin, Brazil's richest man and Facebook's quietest billionaire. Before we explore the Eduardo saga at Filthy Rich, we like to spice things up for entertainment. We'll give Saverin a unique Filthy Rich score. We know you're super interested in how we determine the score, so let's explain that first. In this video, we'll dive into 5 fascinating aspects. First, we'll explore Saverin's history and net worth, just how deep his pockets are, and the stories behind this massive fortune. Next, we'll uncover their scandals, because let's face it, what's a billionaire without a little drama? Then we'll take a peek into his lifestyle, explore luxury homes, private jets, and all the flashy extravagance that makes us dream of billionaire status. Finally, we'll touch on his giving nature, philanthropy. Because with immense wealth comes the question of responsibility and duty to society. Well, at least for some, if not all. Each aspect has a total score of 20 points, adding up to 100 points in the end. So stick around to see Eduardo's Filthy Rich score. Trust us, you don't want to miss out. Eduardo's life may feel like a dream come true. No legal drama from the government tightening its grip on social media platforms, no media battles, and a steady stream of massive, passive income. All of it seems pretty good, right? But when you think of how Saverin got to where he is now, there's more to it than what meets the eye. Let's start with Saverin's history. Eduardo Saverin was born on March 19, 1982 in Sao Paulo into a family so wealthy that even their butlers had butlers. You can pretty much say that he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Saverin was nurtured by his Jewish Brazilian parents in the vibrant city of Rio de Janeiro. From a young age, he was influenced by his entrepreneurial father, whose diverse business ventures ignited Saverin's passion for the world of commerce. This early exposure to the business world fostered a strong work ethic and set the stage for Saverin's future as a trailblazer in innovation and success. Growing up, Eduardo enjoyed all the luxuries of a posh lifestyle. Private schools, exclusive parties, and, of course, a golden ticket to the prestigious Harvard University. Little did he know that this Ivy League institution would be the setting for the drama of a lifetime, one that even Shakespeare would be proud of. Early in his junior year at Harvard, Eduardo met a fellow student, Mark Zuckerberg. Just a guy in a hoodie with a big idea. Together, they launched Facebook in 2004, aiming to connect Harvard students because apparently talking in person was just too much effort. Initially, they chipped in $1,000 each to get the site off the ground, a tiny investment that would soon turn into an astronomical windfall. For one, way more than the other. Eduardo took on the role of Chief Financial Officer and Business Manager, starting with a 30% share of the company. But as Facebook's growth exploded, so did the tensions. Life was about to get far more messier than a Monday morning email inbox. The scandals were about to begin. Things were going smoothly until Dustin Moskovitz joined the team, sparking communication issues and petty arguments. At this point, Zuckerberg held 65% of Facebook, Saverin 30% and Moskovitz 5%, and they seemed poised to conquer the tech world. But cracks in their friendship began to show. While Zuckerberg and Moskovitz moved to Palo Alto to focus on Facebook, Eduardo stayed on the East Coast, interning at Lehman Brothers. He was tasked with securing funds, setting up the company, and writing a business model, but the distance was too much. The friendship started to fray, especially when Sean Parker, the notorious Napster co-founder, entered the scene. Parker quickly aligned with Mark, and Eduardo found himself increasingly sidelined. As tensions rose, Mark, Peter, and Moskowitz began plotting to reduce Eduardo's stake. In a quiet move, Mark diluted Saverin's 30% share, cutting him down to 5%. Quicker than a snowman melting in mid-July. Things got, well, complicated. Eduardo's fallout with Zuckerberg became one of the most infamous breakups in tech history. Right up there with Steve Jobs versus the board or Elon Musk versus Twitter users. Eduardo tried to fight back by freezing Facebook's Florida bank account, nearly sinking the company. He even accused Zuckerberg of using company funds for personal expenses that summer. This made Zuckerberg see red. In a last-ditch effort, Mark's family had to pitch in $85,000 to keep Facebook afloat until Peter Thiel's $500,000 investment arrived. The final blow came when Mark convinced Eduardo to sign away his voting rights on October 31, 2004. By January 2005, Zuckerberg had issued over 9 million new shares, mostly to active employees, leaving Eduardo with just 3 million shares and no power. Meanwhile, Parker and Moskowitz gained more control. And just like that, Eduardo's place on Facebook was all but erased. If you've seen the movie The Social Network, you must already know that Eduardo wasn't exactly basking in the sun during all this drama. With tensions surrounding the company's future and Eduardo's share at stake, it escalated into a legal showdown. It was a tech soap opera for the ages, and yes, it was better than the Game of Thrones spin-offs. After the back-and-forth legal tennis, in 2009, lawsuits were settled out of court. Eduardo regained his title as Facebook co-founder and pocketed 5% of Facebook's shares. Now, 5% might sound like a consolation prize, but when it's 5% of Facebook, that's what we call a winning lottery ticket. Those shares were worth around $5 billion. Not bad for a guy who started with just $15,000. By 2023, Eduardo had climbed to the top of Singapore's wealthiest list, adding another $6.4 billion to his fortune thanks to the continual rise of Meta share prices and some astute business moves. This guy was now printing money in his sleep. Speaking of which, he must sleep well in his luxury penthouse with stunning views of Marina Bay. For a man who once shunned the spotlight, he's certainly living large, buying up expensive properties in Singapore like Monopoly was a real thing. More on this later on. Fast forward to 2024 and Eduardo Saverin now has a net worth of $30.8 billion. Today, Saverin is ranked as the 59th wealthiest person in the world according to Forbes and is definitely filthy rich. While most of this comes from Facebook, Eduardo's been anything but idle. After his Facebook drama in 2009, he moved to Singapore, probably because he heard the food was good and the taxes were, let's just say, manageable. We'll let you decide on that one, but make sure that you hear what's coming up next. Just when you thought his life couldn't get any more interesting, Saverin made it to the headlines again in 2012 by renouncing his US citizenship. This move, which saved him a cool $700 million in capital gains taxes, didn't exactly win him a Citizen of the Year award. Saverin, of course, claimed that it was purely about living and working in Singapore. Right, I'm sure the $700 million was just a happy coincidence. Despite the Facebook controversy, Saverin has quietly become one of the biggest players in the venture capital world. Eduardo's never been about flashing purchases in the media, but instead has focused on maintaining a quiet and prospering life. He co-founded Porter, a charity portal, and started investing in tech startups, like a shark smelling blood in the water. B Capital Group, Eduardo's global venture capital firm he started in Singapore, has made waves in the investment world, focusing on bridging the gap between startups and established global corporations. B Capital alone has over $7 billion in assets under management. Not bad for a guy who's less flashy than a pair of Zuckerberg sandals. Saverin's investment strategy is diverse. He's put money into various sectors, including technology, finance, and real estate. His portfolio features significant investments in notable companies such as Lyft and Snapdeal. This wide-ranging approach reflects his belief in the transformative power of technology and also his ability to identify and support innovative business models. As a result, Saverin's wealth has swelled well beyond his initial Facebook shares. Some people just have a knack for business, don't they? Let's take a closer look at Mr. Saverin's generosity. While Saverin is often painted as the villain in the Facebook saga, With some even questioning his intellect due to his contentious departure, his philanthropic contributions are frequently overlooked. Or are they? Through his foundation, Saverin's made significant donations to education, healthcare, and cultural institutions. For instance, he's given approximately $15 million to the Singapore American School. But for someone with a net worth exceeding $30 billion, isn't this just a drop in the ocean? His low-key approach to wealth is something we at Filthy Rich could learn from. Why be a multimillionaire and try to keep it under wraps? Now let's talk about something we all love: extravagant luxuries. His lifestyle is the epitome of quiet opulence. So how does Eduardo spend his billions? While some billionaires flaunt their wealth, Saverin is more of the understated type. Until you look at his real estate portfolio. Word on the street is that he bought the most expensive home on Nassam Road in Singapore for over $170 million. The property boasts an 84,000 square foot plot, complete with a tennis court, a swimming pool, and probably a room just for his socks. And that's just the start. His 10,300 square foot penthouse in Sculptura Ardmore, designed by a top New York architect, Carlos Zapata, cost a mere $60 million. One of Saverin's first purchases in Singapore was a $14 million 5,000 square foot penthouse atop the Ion Orchard Shopping Center, the tallest building in the area, which features 175 exclusive units. But wait, there's more. Eduardo also dropped a heavy $95 million on 2 ski resorts in France and linked their basements. Because when you've got this much money, why not own a piece of the Alps? Sure, his properties are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. What about his boys' toys? You better believe Eduardo has a fleet of cars. He tries to keep a low profile, however, it's known that he owns a Ferrari LaFerrari worth $5 million and a Bugatti Chiron worth $4 million. 2 of the most expensive cars that silently scream, "I'm filthy rich." Now let's not forget about his Gulfstream G650, a $50 million luxury jet that takes his travels to the next level. When you're managing billions, commercial flights just don't make the cut. With this jet, he ensures that his journeys are as lavish as his lifestyle. As for luxury watches, you'll probably never see him posting a shot of his wrist on Instagram, but people who've seen him up close report that they spotted a Patek Philippe Nautilus on his wrist, with an estimated value to be over $200,000. And despite all this, Saverin stays away from the limelight. He prefers his quiet, luxurious life in Singapore with his wife, Elaine, whom he married in a hush-hush ceremony on the French Riviera in 2015. Talk about living the high life, literally. Now that we've covered all the key aspects of Eduardo Saverin's life, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. We've crunched the numbers in the Filthy Rich computer, and Saverin scores 77.4 out of 100. While his wealth is something most of us can only dream of, his relatively limited philanthropy has pulled his score down a little. Come on, Eduardo, spread the wealth a little more. So, is Eduardo living a life of luxury and low-key scandals behind the quiet exterior? Absolutely. But is he giving back enough to the community? That's up for debate. Do you agree with our rating? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoy this glimpse into the life of a low-key billionaire, stay tuned for more intriguing videos, which educate, entertain, and inspire.